What's the craziest thing you've ever seen as a bouncer?
As a bouncer?
Yeah.
Took a response to a fight, and when I got outside, it was between a guy and a trainee.
Wait for it.
And they were in a fight. By the time I got through the crowd and was like actually about to go break them up,
Here it comes.
she had thrown one of the cleanest hooks I've ever seen in my entire life, knocked this dude to the ground,
Almost there.
and proceeded to say, "You like this anyway." Pulls the dick tape off, drops the dick on his face, and I just couldn't. I just fucking walked away.
No.
I ain't break up shit. I was just like, you know what, y'all got that. Y'all, it broke itself up. No.
Legendary. Dude.
I think that behooves artists to come out and speak for Kamala against Donald Trump because he is an existential threat to the country. What do you say to that?
You know what? I don't get too deep into politics. I think voting is an individual choice.
Breaking news tonight, Sean Diddy Combs has been arrested in a Manhattan hotel.
I'm supporting Vice President Harris because she fights. I love you more, but I love Kamala Harris even more.
Meine Arbeit für richtig gibt, du jetzt eine Stimme ab. Wenn ja, dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin. Meine Arbeit für Richtiges. Ob du glaubst, dass ich...
If your wife dies, don't tell anyone. Be a man.
That's illegal. I'd like you to smoke this. You need to turn this camera off right now. Turn this off. All right, it's off. It's off. I don't want to arrest you, okay?
Aren't you even a little bit curious to try this plant?
I'll tell you what, just to get in the mind of the criminal, I'm going to do this one time.
Put it down. You feel any different yet?
I don't feel nothing different. I can't believe it. I've been high for 10 minutes and I've got no desire to burn down a school. Do you know how many high school students I have tackled and sat on? Woo! Hey, where would a man buy a hammock at this hour? You want a hammock? I'll get you a hammock. We'll have 2 hammocks. Holy shit. I got this overwhelming urge to go to an aquarium. They got them sea lions over there swimming around. They look like a little water doggies. What you looking at?
That's a fence.
There ain't no fence.
Spain.
Soy un hombre muy honrado que me gusta lo mejor. A mujeres no me falta ni el dinero ni el amor. Jineteando en mi caballo por la sierra yo me voy. Las estrellas y la luna ellas me dicen dónde voy. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, ay, mi amor. Ay, mi amor.
You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right.
Then do and homelessness and all that.
And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume. I'm kind of retarded.
I wanted to take a brief moment to talk about a certain group of people that a lot of folks seem to think are secretly the top of the pyramid and running everything.
Aha!
Just out of curiosity, when was the CIA founded? September 18th, 1947. And when was Israel founded? May 14th, 1948. So just 8 months after the founding of an agency who is best known for overthrowing other countries' governments and installing puppet regimes. Well, that and drug smuggling. And that's basically the way I look at it. Israel is just a colony, but we pretend they're a sovereign nation. Sort of a beachhead in the Middle East for the Anglo-American Empire. And the best thing is they've got a lot of people pretending like the tail wags the dog. And I am aware that this is basically what the Iranian government says, but the sun even shines on a dog's ass sometimes. And I find it hard to believe that when you've got these power blocks like the Anglo-American establishment and the World Economic Forum, in addition to the ambitions of the rising BRICS power block, which I'll talk more about in a few minutes, but to believe that everything comes back to this tiny spit of land and it's all being controlled by the guys that wear tea cozies on their heads. Sorry, I'm not buying it.
And that's all I have to say about that.
So anyways, we had a lot of good comic relief this week, and for as dire a situation we're in, it's important to be able to appreciate the hilarity. And I think quite possibly the funniest thing I saw all week was this article from the New York Post. I'm an ex-McDonald's chef. Trump has no idea how difficult it is to be a French fry cook. You have no idea how hard it is to say the words McDonald's chef without laughing. I mean, calling yourself a McDonald's chef is like calling yourself Special Forces with the Salvation Army. And this whole article is hilarious. Right from the opening line, manning the fries at McDonald's is no small potatoes.
Bullshit.
And this all started because Trump had went on Fox News and said something about how he's got a friend who owns a McDonald's and he was going to work as a fry cook on Sunday. Basically because of Kamala's claim that she used to work at McDonald's at one time. A claim that many people believe is bullshit, and so do I for that matter. So you have this D-bag, an ex-executive chef, former manager of culinary innovation for the U.S. menu. The U.S. menu. Because if you go to Europe and go to a McDonald's, you're going to find the same thing. I mean, sure, it might be called a Royale with cheese, but it's basically the same burger. The only difference is all the fucking chemical additives that they put in the US menu that they don't put in the menu in all these other countries because those chemicals are fucking illegal. And this asshole's gonna sit there and try to say, being a McDonald's employee is more difficult than a lot of people imagine. And it takes a certain je ne sais quoi to excel at the potato post. To be clear, it doesn't. And while I never worked at a McDonald's when I was a teenager, I worked at a couple of other fast food places, and I can tell you it's the easiest goddamn job in the place. And this guy goes on to say that, oh, it's probably going to be a highly controlled environment, and if he was actually in the real position, he wouldn't be able to handle it. Now, if Trump had come out and said, oh, I've got a friend who owns a Waffle House, and I'm going to cook third shift there, then I would say, holy fuck, he doesn't know what he's getting himself into. Because that's also a job I did for years, actually. Third shift grill operator. And even outside of all the gladiatorial stuff that goes on in Waffle House third shift, you are a one-man kitchen. You're making everything from the waffles to the steaks to the burgers, flipping omelets and eggs, and all at the same fucking time. Oh, but sure, manning a fryer and salting and scooping fries is really tough work. I also found this little interview that Kamala did with Brett Baer to be pretty Fucking funny on multiple levels.
Donald Trump and
Democrats voted.
Donald Trump, 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 and Donald Trump, Donald Trump.
President Biden had a fundraiser debate stage.
Let's go back to Donald
profits.
Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump.
I don't know how many of you actually took the time to watch the interview, but it was
amazingly bad.
The country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But
people
you're the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me.
I mean, look at that body language. She actually thought that that was clever. And I also found it hilarious the people that were praising Brett Baer, even people that to some degree or other understand that Fox News is bullshit controlled opposition, were saying he did a great job. No, he did a barely okay job. It's just that the standard has been set so low because almost every time she sits down with somebody, it's a friendly. That even half-assed pushback looks like a hardball interview. but it was nowhere near the kind of adversarial tone that pretty much every fucking interviewer takes with Trump. Take this, for example.
He's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations.
See, he had that little video queued up because he knew it was going to be one of her talking points. She repeats herself in the same bullshit over and over again about, ooh, Trump is talking about the enemy within, and he means he's going to use the military on any American citizens who disagree with him. And that's literally what she's been going around saying. When that's not what Trump was talking about. He was talking about, oh, I don't know, maybe shitbags like you that have held the levers of power in this country for the past few years. Or maybe the millions and millions of unvetted people that have flooded into our country. And if he really wanted to do a good job, Bret Baier could have brought up the fact that, well, it was the administration that you're a part of that just a month ago gave authorization for the Department of Defense to use lethal force on American citizens. But no, he wasn't going to bring up anything like that because Fox News is a bunch of bullshit. And what's even more funny is it was still enough to make her start to absolutely lose her shit.
What he has been saying about the enemy within, that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you...
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
And maybe it's just my imagination, but it seems like following that interview, she's decided to stick with that angry, screeching howler monkey affect.
Should never again have the privilege of standing behind the seal of the President of the United States. Never again. Never again. Never again.
She's starting to sound like Hillary Clinton, hitting those tones that make your asshole clench up and your pets get nervous. And then, of course, there was the Al Smith charity dinner, which neither Kamala or that ugly lesbian she's running with decided to show up to. Instead, she just decided to send in this little video that apparently she thought was funny featuring Mary Kathleen Gallagher, which younger millennials and Gen Z might not realize, but Saturday Night Live used to be very funny. Back in the early to mid-90s when you had everyone, I mean, Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, Adam Sandler, Chris Farley, David Spade, Norm Macdonald, Kevin Nealon. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that era was the best, the high watermark. But even then, they still had some duds. And I can't think of a more unfunny skit from that era than the whole Mary Kathleen Gallagher bullshit. And I don't think it's any coincidence that Molly Shannon was basically the only cast member from that time to not go on to bigger stardom. I can't even bring myself to subject you to this little 2-minute video because it is that fucking terrible. And by contrast, you had Trump, who not only showed up to the dinner, but had some hilarious fucking jokes.
But unfortunately, Governor Walz isn't here himself, but don't worry, he'll say that he was. He's going to say he was. I used to think the Democrats were crazy for saying that men have periods, but then I met Tim Walz. I'm surprised that Bill de Blasio was actually able to make it tonight, to be honest. He was a terrible mayor. I don't give a shit if this is comedy or not. There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris? Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? He looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president.
And then, of course, there was this little moment between Obama and Biden at Ethel Kennedy's funeral where a professional lip reader weighed in on what they were saying to each other. And it went a little something like this.
So is Kamala doing okay?
Nope. She's down, Joe. I think they found out that she's retarded, and now we're basically fucked. Trump is killing us at the polls, so yes, we're going to lose Joe.
Damn it. Wait. What if I come back to run again?
As candidate?
Yeah.
Well, let me put it this way, Joe. The only person in this world who is even more retarded than Kamala Harris is basically you. So no, Joe,
on, man.
You're
Just
not going
give it
back
another
in.
shot.
Let's let it all play out. Okay, we'll talk later, Joe.
Okay.
Women looking fine up in here.
Okay, so maybe that wasn't exactly what the lip reader said, but that was the basic gist of it. It does go a long way to explain why Obama's been on the campaign trail sounding all angry and scolding black men for not supporting what amounts to a fucking cop. I mean, she was the Attorney General of California, and the Attorney General gets referred to as the top cop. I remember about 10 years ago I had an apartment in the hood, and they would refer to the cops as crackers. And I asked one of them one day, I said, well, what if it's a black cop? You still call them a cracker? And he said, oh yeah, especially if it's a black cop. So it's not exactly a mystery why this is such a hard sell. And as for the aforementioned Rising BRICS power bloc, they're starting a conference tomorrow where, in addition to considering new members, they're going to be talking about the forming of their partially gold-backed currency. See, I'm not naive enough to think that depending on who wins this election, it doesn't mean that we don't have a fucked up rocky road ahead of us. You've got what amounts to 70% of the global population that's on board with de-dollarizing, and not for no fucking reason, provided we can even make it to election day without some completely insane shit jumping off. You had Zelensky over there saying that, oh, you can either let us join NATO or we will get a nuclear bomb. And then he immediately tried to walk it back, but really only kinda, because he's like, look, I said we would prefer NATO. In addition to China doing their biggest ever practice run of encircling and invading Taiwan, which coincides with Winnie the Pooh himself putting out videos where he's actually wearing fucking military fatigues. I've never seen this dude in military fatigues. As well as now that you got the fucking North and South Koreans actually shooting at each other again. At some point it's gonna jump off, and when it does, it's probably not gonna be a nuclear attack on the US. When I say unconventional, I'm talking about kinetic power grid attacks, other infrastructure, cyber attacks. What if you wake up on election day and that just happens to be the day that the cyber pandemic kicked off? What happens then? Just something to think about. Sláinte.
In this world is my thoughts and my words, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. Say good night to the bad guy. Come on. Come on. fuck with me! I told you! Don't fuck with me! I told you! Don't fuck with me! You stupid fuck! Look at you now!